Here in just a little while. Let's bring back Andrij Dobriansky, Director of Communications and Media for the Ukrainian Congress Committee of America. Andrij, I think first things first, just having an understanding of this rare earth minerals deal, how it came out, what it came about, what it means, as the two discuss the possibility of this today. Give us an understanding. Is this a good deal for Ukraine? Is it a good deal for the U.S.? What does it mean for Russia?
Well, as the Treasury Secretary has repeated several times, especially once the Ukraine's Economic Council put its stamp of approval on Ukraine going ahead with this, that this is a win-win for Ukraine and the United States. It's a win-win because there's lots of investment in Ukraine that's possible because of this. The United States has the best technology, the best private enterprises that are able to both locate specifically where these resources are and have the best extraction materials. We also know that the area that a lot of these are located in have been severely depopulated, leveled to the ground by Russian air attacks. So we're not that worried about doing the kind of intensive mining that is necessary to extract them next to a populated area. So there's a lot of positives for America to get these, frankly, a generational amount of materials for America's lead in technology and equipment manufacturing that it wants to maintain a lead in and edge out anybody else, especially a foreign power like China. But this does also have a lot of benefits for Ukraine.
There was two versions of this mineral deal. What was in the first that Zelenskyy refused to sign?
I don't think the first one you can say was a serious proposal because it was frankly very vague and did not even, in the vagueness of it, include any benefits for Ukraine. Simply was a way to state that the United States needs to be compensated in some way for all the millions. Of course, we know that the vast majority of value, and not money, but value that is assigned to the money when people list the almost 130 million, not quite, and half of that President Trump keeps citing, that was transferred to Ukraine. Most of that was salaries for American employees to build munitions, to refill American armories, and expired munitions, which were sent to Ukraine, the value of which totals up to that amount. So a clarification with the U.S. Treasury Secretary, fantastic to have a person that, actually knows the numbers we're talking about, knows the value because the U.S. Geological Survey was behind the team that identified a lot of these caches back in the early 2000s in Ukraine, and, having everybody on the same page.
It will be interesting to look at the dynamic between the two. And a moment ago, we saw them shaking hands as they walked in to the White House. What will you be looking for in terms of the interaction and what they say publicly? And do you expect a rebuke from Zelenskyy to some of the comments President Trump has said as of late, calling him a dictator?
100% do not expect a public rebuke. I expect that to be different than what Keir Starmer and Emmanuel Macron and their meetings with President Trump when they corrected President Trump. I think President Zelenskyy will speak the truth. He will simply not be interested in using the opportunity to have a spat with President Trump. That he's leaving to the Russians. The Russians have every day this week put out a statement embarrassing President Trump. Almost immediately after President Trump says that he and Putin have agreed to something as far as peacekeepers, as far as concessions, immediately Russian response saying, we in no way agree to this. This is not what we're, into. That's not what Ukraine has been doing. Ukraine has been saying publicly that they want to work with the United States. And if they want to have a tough conversation, as with this negotiation, which really came in at the 11th hour, the final details this week, and having Ukrainian negotiators here in the United States prior to President Zelenskyy, they're interested in, if they want to talk tough, they'll talk behind closed doors. But in public, I don't think you're going to see as much of a rebuke as you would see with our allies of United Kingdom and France.
Right. So a respectful interaction, we anticipate. In the meantime, if this deal gets signed, what happens next at the negotiating table, and who do you think will be seated or should be seated around it?
Well, next is the bigger part, because this is an agreement to agree, or what's called a framework agreement, where where the tough negotiation was around what part, how far are we willing to go on the outer edges, and really understanding what the 50-50 split is in terms of how much people put into the project. Therefore, they get an equal amount back at the very least, percentage-wise. The real hard work is the second agreement, which details the fund that will be set up by this project, the fund which will then be dispersing monies both to Ukraine for its defense as well as to the United States. And that second agreement is a full-fledged treaty agreement that will need to be ratified by Ukraine's parliament. So the framework agreement doesn't say that it has to be such on the United States side, that it has to be verified by the United States Senate, but it will have to go through several more steps of verification, codification prior to getting to that step. So that's the much harder agreement.
All right. What else would you or should we be looking for to come out of these talks today, Andrij?
Well, out of these talks, I think it's very important that it's President Zelenskyy who's the first one to make a deal, not Russia, the enemy state. It's President Zelenskyy that has the first face-to-face with President Trump, not the enemy, not President Putin. This is all positive, as well as just the video and pictures that just President Zelenskyy posted about the meeting with bipartisan Senate leadership, including the Senator Wicker of the Foreign Relations Committee. Very hard words that he has had over the last couple of weeks about President Putin, in contrast to President Trump. I think this is a very important sign for Ukraine about where we can keep on having a productive relationship if President Trump sours on his potential goal of deal making with President Putin. It looks like the Senate and the House are ready to be in the lead if President Trump says, you know what, we need to support Ukraine a little stronger up until we can force President Putin to come to the table.
And I just want to read part of what Zelenskyy said ahead of this meeting as we watch him walk in with President Trump there. He said, "I'm in Washington. I met with the bipartisan delegation from the Senate. The discussion focused on our continued military assistance for Ukraine, relevant legislative initiatives, my meeting with President Trump, efforts to achieve a lasting peace, our vision for ending the war, and the importance of a robust security guarantee." And he also said he's grateful for the unwavering support for Ukraine throughout all 3 years of Russia's full-scale aggression. Andrij Dobriansky, as always, thank you. This is an important day, and it could be an important next step in ending the war in Ukraine. As always, your perspective greatly appreciated.
So grateful. Thank you, Marnie.
Thank you. All right.